All right, today we're going to work on second step lesson number 8. And what we're going to talk about today is something a little bit more heavy, and that is what is harassment? So in this lesson, we'll learn what harassment is, how to identify it, and how it's different from bullying. Move that up there. All right. Norms are guidelines for how people are expected to behave in a particular setting. So class norms are things like showing respect for others, using I statements such as I feel, I think, or I believe, being kind, giving everyone a chance to speak, disagreeing respectfully, and don't interrupt others when they're speaking. Okay, you probably had class norms like this in all of your classes throughout elementary and now here at the middle school. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're following these norms when we're behaving in class, and especially during this unit. Okay, so we're going to follow our class norms. We're going to respect the privacy of others. We're not going to share people's stories or names. If you need help or want to talk, you need to contact a school counselor or another adult you trust. So a teacher on your team, somebody in the building that you feel like you can talk to. So if after going through this lesson, you feel like maybe some of these things are talking about a situation that you've experienced or are experiencing, we definitely want you to reach out and talk to somebody. We don't want you to sit there and just take it all in and suffer from that bullying or harassment. Okay, so we want you to reach out and let somebody know. Okay, because believe it or not, we as teachers, we're not mind readers. We don't always see everything that happens, and I think we've all talked about this before. Usually, the second person doing something always gets caught, or we always see the tail end of something that happens. We never see the initial thing that happened. So to help us out, you need to step up and let us know when these things are happening so we can help you deal with it. All right. So bullying versus harassment. What's the difference? How do we tell when something is bullying and something is harassment? So what I want you to do right now is take a second and I want you to tell me in your own words what bullying means to you and what harassment means to you. Is there a difference? How are they different to you? So take a second and write that down now. All right. So if we're going to define bullying and harassment, here is the definition difference. And we'll look at some scenario differences as well, but the definition puts it as this. So bullying is the intentional, physical, verbal, or social aggression. It's often repeated over time and occurs when there's a real or perceived power imbalance. Okay? Bullying is when you are, quote unquote, picking on somebody because of something different. Maybe it's the haircut that they got. Maybe they didn't do so well in PE in the basketball game that you were playing that day. Or in dodgeball, they got out right away. Okay, something little like that you're trying to, pick at and make fun of. Harassment, however, is aggression against someone based on a real or perceived characteristic they have, such as their race, their religion, their sex, or their gender. So it's serious enough to create an unsafe environment, and it's a form of discrimination. So harassment is you're targeting something specific about someone that makes them unique, that you are trying to make them feel less than by targeting because of that. And that's definitely not acceptable, and we're not going to put up with that here at the middle school. That's not something we encourage, and that's something we're going to support. And we're definitely going to address if it's a problem. So again, if you feel like that's something that's happening to you, please let an adult in the building know, and we'd be more than happy to assist you with remedying that situation. Did you know 1 in 5 6th and 7th grade students reported seeing hate-related graffiti at school? Definitely, if you see that in our school, we want to hear about it. Okay. 1 in 3 black students reported being harassed based on their race. More LGBTQ high school students reported having been cyberbullied and bullied on school property than non-LGBTQ students. So now we're going to look at a couple scenarios. So this one, the first one, let me get my face out of the way there, is Khadijah's story. So Khadijah rides the bus to school every day. Lately, some older students have been laughing and saying mean things about her hijab. Her hijab is a traditional Muslim headscarf. Is this bullying? Why or why not? Is this harassment? Why or why not? So I want you to take a minute and I want you to answer that question. Which is it? Is it bullying or harassment, and why? So in this case, this is harassment because the actions are aggressive and are based on Khadijah's perceived religion. These actions make the bus unsafe for her. Okay, so it's harassment because they are targeting her for a religious headscarf that she is wearing. It's also bullying because the actions are intentional, aggressive, and involve a power imbalance and have been repeated over time. So, can it be both? Yes. So in this scenario, it is. But it's more harassment because they're targeting her because of something that is something that is her perceived religion, and making that the focus of their comments and behavior. Okay, here's another scenario that I'm sure many of you that are involved in athletics can relate to. This is Kevin's story. So Kevin, Tony, and Mac play on the same baseball team. In the last 3 games, Kevin was benched. Tony and Mac have since started teasing Kevin in the locker room and making rude jokes about him being benched. Is this bullying? Why or why not? Or is this harassment? Why or why not? So I want you to take a minute and I want you to tell me, is this bullying or harassment, and why? Okay, this is not harassment because the action of his teammates weren't based on a real or perceived characteristic that Kevin has, but on his participation on the team. So it's not harassment because they weren't targeting him for his religion, his race, his sexual orientation. Okay? It is bullying though because the actions are intentional and aggressive, and they involve a power imbalance and have been repeated over time. Okay? It's bullying when it's repeated over time. If it's a one-time event and you say to someone, "Hey, I don't like that, please stop saying it," and then they stop, that's not bullying. That's you correcting an action and giving the person a chance to correct their behavior. But if after you ask them to stop and they keep repeating it and it goes on for days or weeks or even months, well, that is bullying. That's a repeated behavior. You've asked them to stop, they've not corrected their behavior, and they're targeting you. So you need to definitely report that. But that's where the difference between harassment and bullying is. Harassment is, again, based on someone's gender, their sexual orientation, their race, or their religion. Okay? Bullying is where they are making fun of you because of an action or something that happened. Okay? So there's a line between the two. They're both not acceptable, and we're not saying one is worse than the other, but we want to be able to identify what's the difference between the two. So when you say, they're bullying me or they're harassing me, that you're using the correct terms and that you understand what that actually means. Okay. So we're going to wrap this up. Describe the difference between bullying and harassment in your own words. Now that we've gone through this, you had your idea of what you thought harassment and bullying were at the beginning. Now I want you to readdress those, and I want you to tell me now in your own words, what does bullying mean and what does harassment mean? So take a minute right now, and I want you to answer that right here.